So I talked to you probably, I guess it's been maybe a couple of years ago, last time I spoke with you about Year of the Tiger was coming out at that point.
Yeah. Great record.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And a lot of stuff's happened since then. Of course, the new album, War Paint, which is awesome. It's a really great album.
Thank you.
I was just thinking, today, the debut album for Buckcherry, that was like 20 years ago now since that was released.
Yeah, 20 years.
Does it seem like it's been that long to you, or has it just kind of been one wild, fast ride through everything?
You know what? I'm always looking ahead. I don't really look back that often. So, yeah, it starts to fly by with the touring and you got my kids are growing fast, and so all of it is. I don't really think about it because I'm so busy until I had to kind of, sit back and look at the whole career, because it was 20 years and it was something that was going to be discussed, and I'm just, I'm really grateful. When I was dreaming about this as a young me, I always wanted to be in one band and have a catalog of music and really make my mark, and that's what I've accomplished so far, and I'm proud of it.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, you guys have got a great discography. The new album is just off the hook, and you're obviously doing something right, because the reviews for that album everything I've read has been very positive for War Paint. So, that seems like maybe sort of a return to form for kind of like the earlier sound, maybe the early root sound of Buckcherry. Was that on purpose, or did that just sort of happen naturally when you guys were writing this album?
I think some of the songs have that flavor, like the actual track War Paint, and maybe like songs like Closer and The Devil in the Details, stuff like that. But like, The Vacuum and Right Now, and those songs are a little more modern sounding, and The Alarm, So I mean, the point that we we really worked hard on the songwriting. We wrote about 30 songs for an 11-song record. We were very thorough, and we knew we had to come with a really good body of work. And not like we don't think about that every time we go to to start writing songs, but it had been a while since the last Buckcherry record, so it was important.
So what happens to that extra material? Was it just not up to the quality you would want on this album, or maybe just didn't all fit cohesively? Like, will that stuff get released at some point, maybe as an EP?
I get that question. I get that question all the time, and it's like, usually the songs that don't make a record, they don't make it for a reason, and they're just not good enough for the there's always songs that just keep hanging around as far as the good ones. And they're the ones that make the record, and the ones that don't, they just kind of fade off into oblivion, For us, sometimes, on rare occasions, we'll take like a good verse or a good chorus from a song that we just thought was really good and could be better, and we'll kind of revamp it and make it better. But rarely does that happen. We just, I like to just start fresh, because I'm growing so much as an artist and an individual, and so by the time I get down to writing songs, I want to, I just want to start from nothing,
Mm-hmm. So tell me about the current tour for the War Paint album. You guys are out on the road right now. We're going to be on site with our photographer in Tempe, Arizona, coming up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we'll see you guys there. So we're going to do a featured article and review there. But tell me about this tour. How's everything going along with this current tour?
Yeah, the tour is going great. We have a little break at home that we've had for like 2 weeks, and it's been amazing. Well needed, because we were out since January, and we had been to, we'd been to the UK and Canada and the States and put in over 100 shows, and so we were pretty crispy, but the great news is that it's really the best Buckcherry lineup that we've ever had, like the most talented musicians that have ever been in Buckcherry, and the live show is amazing, and because we put in so many shows, it's just, the fine oiled machine at this point, and we really had a lot of fun, and playing these new songs live has been great.
So the chemistry with this lineup's really good then.
Yeah, and we've known these guys. We just added two new guys, Kevin Rankin on the guitar and Francis Ruiz on the drums. And the funny part is we all knew each other when we were really young and playing in other bands in L.A. when we were, back in the day. So to come all this way and be in a band together and we just are having so much fun, and it's effortless, and everybody is enjoying themselves, and that's what's most important.
So there's a Bon Jovi song, where I think it's "Wanted Dead or Alive," where he said, "I've seen a million faces and I've rocked them all." How many bands do you think you have performed for over the course of the last 20 years? Just at a guess.
I have definitely seen over a million faces. That's for sure.
That's gotta feel great to know that you've you performed for a million people on the phone.
I don't know how many. I don't know how many shows Buckcherry has done in our career so far, but we've definitely got to be up there with the 5 percentile of bands, rock bands that have toured, because we have averaged over 200 shows for a long time per year.
Yeah.
And 20 years, I don't know what that adds up to, but it's a lot. And I know Metallica did a lot back in the day, but I'm sure we're up there with all the greats as far as a lot of touring. So that being said, we've seen a lot of faces, and it's been amazing. We got to play with our heroes and travel the world like a few times over, and we're still going.
So when you're out on the road, I know there's a lot of temptations when you're out on the road, when you're on tour like that, especially for a long time. I mean, not just like groupies and stuff either, but you guys, I'm sure, are offered an endless supply of party favors and you name it. How do you guys stay focused and sober? How do you stay focused and sober out on the road with all those temptations around you constantly? Or do you?
That's a great question, and I've been sober my whole professional career, and
really,
yeah, I had about almost 2 years of sobriety when I went out on my first Buckcherry tour. So, I've been dealing with it a long time, and part of it is, the way I look at it is, you got to put your sobriety and your recovery first. It's really important, and sometimes we do it gracefully and sometimes we don't. I haven't always done it gracefully for sure, and I think that goes for some of the other guys as well, but that's their own thing. And but yeah, you got to put in the work, and I got to tell you, when I don't know if you've struggled with drug and alcohol addiction, but like when you're sober and you see people that are really fucked up, and we see them every night, it's really not attractive, and
sure.
you know what I mean? So it makes it a lot easier to kind of stay away from it, because you see how people act when they're under the influence, and you're like, wow, and it's always fun when you're under the influence, but when you're not, there's so many glaring issues, and
sure.
All I can say is it worked for me for a long time, and then it stopped working, and it became very dark, and that's why I had to stop. But that being said, we don't preach. We love hosting the party, and I love reminiscing about those days, because they were a lot of fun for me. I had a lot of fun partying for a long time, and then it just stopped working.
So a lot of stuff has changed, obviously, too, with your career and personally. I mean, you're married, you have kids, you have a family. Do they ever come out on the road and meet up with you when you're on
They
tour?
do, yeah, they do. They came out to Memphis, and we played this venue that's at Graceland now, and we were one of the first bands to play that place. Us and Rick Springfield did it one night, and so I had my kids and my wife out during that time, and whenever we can make it work where it's a place where I'm going to be for more than just a night, you know.
Yeah. Very
That's
cool.
the challenging part.
So tell me a little bit about these bands that you've had opening for you, because I sort of feel like, you know, you guys went out on the road in the early stage, and I'm sure, you know, you had bands that you guys kind of looked up to, you know, the Aerosmith, the Guns N' Roses, people like that. Now you guys have kind of achieved that level of fame to a certain degree yourself. So you're kind of the guy that these up-and-coming bands are looking at. So tell me about some of these bands you've had opening for you. Do you see, like, any possibility for superstardom for any of these guys that are opening up for you?
I mean, you just never know, right? You just never know what's, you know, it's all about the right song at the right time and
Sure.
the right chemistry of guys, and there's a lot that's got to kind of align. You know, I don't want to like keep putting a dark cloud over the state of rock right now, but it's just, I don't know, you know. I've really tried to get into new rock, and every now and again somebody will say, "Oh, there's this new band and they sound like Aerosmith," or, "Oh, there's this new band and they sound like, you know, some old rock band," and I'll go check it out. And I want like to hear some big song, and I want to see some big like persona in the video, and none of that is going on. And so that's the only thing I struggle with. I think there's a lack of like melody in rock music these days. You know, you put on like an active rock station, and it's like one continual sound for like 45 minutes, and there's no dynamic.
Yeah.
There's no dynamics between band to band, and it's like I was thinking about the state of rock, and I'm like, you know what? We haven't had like real rock stars, like rock singers, like big rock singers, since the whole decade of the 90s. Because in the 2000s, it's been like nothing. It's been faceless and nothing, you know. And not to say that there hasn't been good bands that have dropped good records and all that stuff, but I'm talking about like in the 90s, you had Lane Staley and Chris Cornell and Eddie Vedder and what's the guy in Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, and you know, you had Zach De La Roca and Rage Against the Machine and all these incredible frontmen, and now it's just gone, you know. And so I think there's a lot of things that are contributing to that. I think that now at big rock shows, a lot of these headlining big rock acts, they're all playing the tracks, right? So their whole shows are cut up on a grid, and there's no spontaneity, and they got perfectly tuned vocals coming through the PA and pre-recorded instruments, and there's a lot of pre-recorded stuff, and so that takes a lot of the spontaneity out of it for like to see like real you know, for frontmen to kind of come up there and be charismatic. There's absolutely no spontaneity. There's no showmanship, and it's really, you know, when I was starting out, it's really those shows where you're not 100%. That's where you find like a lot of magic. And when you're relying on, when you can just lean on a track that's perfectly in tune, and you don't have to worry about like, oh, I'm sick tonight, but it doesn't matter. I got these perfectly in tune vocals coming through the PA, and they can just turn those a little louder, and I can limp through this. It just, I don't think the average rock fan understands like the disservice that is going on in rock, where they're coming to shows and they're basically hearing a band's CD playing through the PA, and that's their live show. You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree. I've made that comment several times, that, and you just mentioned it with active rock radio, but it's really like a cookie cutter formula that started maybe in the early 2000s or mid 2000s. And it was in their minds the last thing that the studios did that seemed to be popular, and so it's just continued to crank one band after another that literally you can't tell apart. They sound like the exact same band, the exact same songs.
Exactly.
So yeah, I've been to a lot of concerts, but I got to tell you, like with the new artists that I've seen, I don't see a lot of showmanship, and that's what you're talking about. I think in this conversation is that you don't see a lot of people really performing. You know, like Kiss puts on a show. I mean, Aerosmith puts on a show. Rolling Stones, all these guys over the years, they know how to give you that, whether it's theatrical or whether it's just, pouring a little bit of the, out of sync in there and just going for it, and just ripping through it with their personality. And you don't see that much. And I think it's unfortunate. And it's interesting that my next question for you actually was going to be, what do you think is wrong with the rock music industry, and what do you think is going right? Because last time I talked to you, we talked about the cycle of albums. You indicated that, generally for bands now, there's not much money in albums. It's getting out on the tour, hitting the road, selling the tickets, and selling the merch. And I assume that's still the case.
I mean, you know what's wrong with rock music? It's not reckless and it's not dangerous anymore. And it's just not. It's really, it's like G-rated, muddied down, and no rock stars. And so that's why it's not on any major award shows. There's no not a lot of love given to it in the in the press or anything, and I hate to say this, but hip hop is where it's at as far as people taking a lot of risks, you know what I mean, and dangerous stuff, and you know what I mean. That's where I go to listen to new music, because it intimidates me, and I like that, And rock used to intimidate me, and it just doesn't.
Yeah, I've actually heard you make that statement before about the hip hop bands. And I'm not a huge hip hop fan myself. My kids love it. And there definitely is enthusiasm. I've been to a few concerts with them. The whole crowd is jumping up and down in unison and sync. I mean, they have everybody stirred up. There's mosh pits and stuff, just like you would expect.
But I mean, it's more than just the hip hop. It's what they're doing. These hip hop artists, a lot of them are creating these empires without record labels. So that to me is like gangster. That's gangster. That goes back to NWA, and that goes back to all the independent bands that I grew up with. So when you don't have record labels involved or anybody dictating what you say or what you do, you create this movement, and it becomes dangerous because nobody's got control over you. And I love that, And I mean, look at Chance the Rapper. He got 3 Grammys without a record label. He sold out, the Hollywood Bowl without, a record label. And it's that's really powerful. And when you listen to certain hip hop artists, they have their own language, some of their own words that I've never heard that just are cool, and the way they're putting hooks together. And so there's a lot more to it than just it's what's popular with kids these days, but it's very clever. There's a lot of work put into it, and that's why I like it so much.
So who do you like? I mean, obviously you mentioned Chance the Rapper. Who else do you like in the hip hop world? Who do you find interesting?
I like Drake. I like Drake and Travis Scott. I love Cardi B, because I feel like she's the real deal. She came from, she was a stripper struggling, came from, humble beginnings, and I can feel it in her music and when she talks, and then when she does her art, she's pretty there's no filter, and I like that, because that's interesting to me, and it sets her apart from other female artists. And same thing with Post Malone. That was the first dude that I kind of recognized that had his face all tattooed, and I was just wow, this dude is crazy, and then every song he came with was amazing. This guy's got hit after hit after hit, and he's just cool, and he's putting together these really cool productions on stage and all that kind of stuff. So I like him a lot. I like Drake, of course. Travis Scott is really cool. We always our Walk On Music is always a hip hop artist, and we've been walking on to Sicko Mode for a while. So we love him, and so just to name a few, those are some of the ones.
Cool. Post Malone just dropped a new track with Ozzy. If you haven't heard it, you should check it out. It's pretty cool.
I haven't, no. And, he was, I think he started out as a guitar player, right, before?
I think so.
He plays guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. It's kind of a nice vibe to it. In a way, part of it kind of reminds me of the duet he did with Lita Ford back in the 80s. But, it's a little more modern, obviously, and but it's cool, and it was cool to hear Ozzy. He's definitely in the mix. It's not like he's just an afterthought kind of thrown in there. So that's something cool, to check out if you're into that sort of thing. So with you being inspired by these hip hop artists, you're just telling me about how, they're taking more risks. They're dangerous and not being led around by the record labels, which I agree, you have that freedom. Do you ever feel a little bit trapped by the Buckcherry, name? Do you ever feel like you can't really? I mean, you kind of have a sound that people expect from Buckcherry, and I know you do side projects, and that's probably why you're probably going to tell me that's why you do the side projects. But do you ever feel like you'd like to just cut loose, try some different things, but maybe it doesn't fit in that Buckcherry mold?
I do that. I collaborate with different artists, rock artists, and I did a hip hop feature on a guy his name was Daytona Mac. He's more of an unknown hip hop artist, and that was a lot of fun for me. And I want more opportunities like that. Back in the day, right before the Time Bomb record, I collaborated with Muggs from Cypress Hill. He did a solo record. I got 2 songs on his record. So I like approaching songwriting in all different genres, and that's a lot of fun for me. So I do that as much as I can. That being said, I started Buckcherry from nothing, so I'm very passionate about Buckcherry. I write all the lyrics and all the melodies to Buckcherry music, so it's very personal for me. So when I go out there to perform it, I don't get tired of it, but sure, do I get tired of writing rock songs every time I come home? I do. That's why I challenge myself and get outside of my genre and write with other people, or I'll just write a song to like an electronic beat at home just to inspire myself. I don't have to necessarily be waiting for somebody,
Mm-hmm. And probably that makes you a better artist overall when you come back to do the Buckcherry stuff, because not only did you kind of get that out of your system a little bit to do something different, but it probably just expands your field of knowledge about music in general and different things by doing other things. Even if you do have kind of a Buckcherry sound, that you sort of maintain, I mean, I'm sure it probably adds to everything you do.
Everything enhances everything else. Yeah, for sure.
You were talking about Post Malone with the face tats and all. You've got a hell of a lot of tats. You're like the illustrated man. Tell me a little bit about your choice of tats. I mean, is there a story to tell there in your art, or is it just sort of been random?
I think it's more about your relationship with the artist, and the majority of my body has been tattooed by this guy named Kevin Quinn, who tattoos out of this place called Tattoo Deluxe and off Van Nuys Boulevard here in California, Los Angeles area. And he's I've spent hours and hours and hours under the gun with him, and he's a lovely guy. And I always loved his flow, and so we talk about everything before we do it, of course, and he has gotten to know me over the years, so he really understands what I love, the type of artwork that I love. I love big and bold pieces. I love Japanese art. I love traditional Americana art. And so he puts together stuff for me, and then we just kind of beat it into shape.
Gotcha. So how much of your body would you say is tattooed at this point, percentage-wise?
I would say 80%.
Wow. And is there any place you won't go? Like,
I'm not gonna tattoo I'm not gonna tattoo my butt cheeks, or I'm too old to get like a face tattoo. I would look like I was chasing something, I think, No, I'm not gonna get a face tattoo or anything, but I'm not gonna tattoo my butt cheeks or my genitals or anything like that. I might, I'm gonna get my legs done at some point. I might wait till my kids are older, and if they want, if they ever want to get that tattooed, I'll go in and get tattooed with them. That would be really fun for me,
Yeah, Nikki Sixx has hot rod flames on his penis, supposedly. And he said he did that just so when he dies, the guys at the morgue can have a laugh.
I love it.
I don't know if that's actually true, but I would not be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
So tell me a little bit about streaming music. I mean, we've all gotten used to it as far as being convenient for us. Is that getting any better for you as an artist, or is it still pretty much just pennies for the bands?
Yeah, it's weird. It doesn't mean a whole lot, but that's what it's all about now, is streaming. I think it's changing a little bit, though. Everybody's kind of working on it to get together and change that, and that's been happening over time. It has changed a little bit, so we'll see. It's weird, because in the rock genre, like platinum and gold records are kind of a thing of the past, which is bizarre. Now they're judging it on like streaming, how many streams depend on like platinum status or whatever. I don't know, but it's weird. But you just gotta
and I'm not even
it,
sure what the criteria is at this point for gold or platinum as far as streaming goes.
I have no idea.
Do you feel like you reach maybe a larger audience this way, though, that people, because they have an unlimited streaming plan, that they can try out new bands, they try new things? You think people maybe listen to Buckcherry that might not would have otherwise, and find you as an artist that they enjoy?
Possibly, but there's so much information that people are getting. It's really hard to get eyes and ears on you. You know what I mean? I'm just grateful that, we kind of established ourselves when it was more of a controlled marketplace, because I know bands that are in the top 5 with radio hits on Active Rock Radio, and they've sold in a week period 100 units, which is wow. Crazy bad,
Yeah, that's totally bizarre. I mean, I don't know, the whole market and calculating that. I mean, it's just so bizarre these days. And the market is glutted with a lot of fakers. And we kind of touched on that, I think, with the Active Rock Radio. And that's why, I'm always glad to get a chance to support bands like Buckcherry. But you guys are the real deal, and you guys put on a tremendous live show.
Thank you.
You guys really pour yourself into what you do. And a lot of these bands don't, nowadays. So obviously we encourage everybody to come out and see you. And like I said, we'll be doing a review here pretty quick for you guys, 13th, I think.
Great.
There in Arizona.
Yeah, we're going to bring it.
Anything you'd like to add to our interview? Anything you can think of you want to get out there or share with your fans?
No, I just encourage the people, if they don't have the Warpaint record, to go out and get the Warpaint record and check out the latest single that we just dropped. Was Radio Song. We just dropped a new video, and people can check that out. It's a really good video. And we'll see you guys on the 13th. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, thanks, Josh. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us.
My pleasure. Great. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye.